Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The topic, inshallah, tonight is it's misunderstood quite a bit, and I'm not professing to be the only one who's got the hang of it, but I think my understanding, I'm giving you this according to my understanding. There are different schools of thoughts. Like you'll find a lot of people will tell you that the ruh and the nafs is the one thing, the same thing, but and they use this interchangeably. But when I was doing my master's degree, this was one area that I found it of a lot of interest, and I want to share this with you. And like always, I say this: I'm not a scholar, so you accept my presentation with that caveat. All right, now we start off by first of all trying to understand that human nature, human being. और चची भी थोड़ा उर्दू में भी ट्राई करेगा बोलेगी चची दोनों मिक्स करके बट आपके इंग्लिश अल्हम्दुलिल्लाह बहुत अच्छा है अच्छा बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया चची ह्यूमन बीइंग देयर ये जो है देयर क्रिएशन ऑफ गॉड ये थ्री लेड नेचुरल डिस्पोजिशन मतलब कि एवरी ह्यूमन बीइंग they have this inside this. Fitra it's a natural disposition. Everybody has got this natural thing in them. And the three-layered natural disposition is the spirit, which is the ruh, the self, which is the nafs, and the physical body, which is the jism. Now, these senses are the spirit, the self, which is the nafs, and the physical body. When you die, that's the end of it. But the spirit is there. Okay? So it's very important to, first of all, to understand that. Now, human spirit has a breath of divine spirit. I don't mind, this was supposed to be classes, so I don't mind people in between asking questions. I don't mind. We've got a handful of people, and unless you're running for time, you want me to finish in 30 minutes, then don't ask any questions. But if people want to understand, and this was meant to be classes, I don't mind you intercepting or interrupting. No, interrupting is not the right word, intercepting. Allah says, so when I made him complete and breathed into him my spirit, fall down, making obeisance to him. What does this verse tell us? This verse tells us that the spirit is the work of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's work, the spirit. He creates it. And since Allah created this, Allah has breathed it into you, so this spirit is clean and innocent. And it cannot err.
I know our Christian brothers and sisters say that a child is born with sin. This obviously is contrary to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. In fact, Islam says the child is born sinless. So that's the, I can call it the beauty of Islam. How can a child just born be a sinful child? Okay, so that statement, I'm sorry to say it, but it's contrary to everything, including common sense. So what is nafs? We've done the human spirit, and I said that's clean, it's innocent, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala breathed that into you. So the nafs is something between the heavenly spirit, which Allah has breathed into you, and the jism, which is your physical body. That's the nafs. That, in fact, is the emotional center of our being, and therefore it is impulsive. In other words, you're going to do things on impulse because your nafs, your desire tells you to do it.
So how is it different from conscience?
Basically the same thing.
It is.
Basically the same thing. All right? It is conscience actually, because you decide you want to do it, and then I'll come to it. There are three different levels of consciousness, right?
Sorry, just you said interject, and I'm taking advantage of that word. Is it interject, I think?
No, intercept.
Intercept. I'm intercepting. So can you tell us a bit more, define us what spirit is? I know it's Allah. Is it an immaterial thing or?
Look, spirit is something you can't see. No physical eye can see it. Allah brings.
What does it do? What does the spirit do?
That spirit is what is going to determine, your nafs will determine where your spirit will be placed in the hereafter. And I think I've said that you can intercept, but I think it might be an idea because I'll be answering those very questions as I go along.
Okay, sure.
So that's why you'll have the flow of things as per my presentation, and then we can come back and maybe have question and answer sessions. Sorry? No, that's all right. I mean, in other words, this state, the nafs basically controls and decides our actions. I think that's a better way of putting it. The nafs decides and controls our actions. Okay? So the nafs wants nothing but, loves nothing but the things of this world. So going back to the fitra, which I was talking about, which is a natural disposition, everybody wants the best of this world. Whilst the ruh, which is the spirit, simply stays there, longs for you to do the right thing so that I'm going to go to heaven. Don't do anything with your nafs. Don't ruin my spirit. Don't ruin me. I want to end up in heaven. Okay? So, what distinguishes one man from another is his nafs. I'm trying to break it down as simple as possible. Okay? That's what decides and distinguishes between two personalities. And in fact, in our opinion, the part of us which is responsible in front of the Lord is the final day of the nafs of each of us. And it is nafs which is not the ruh. Your spirit does not err. The nafs does. Now, you can see that the human being, can you read all that? Yeah. Okay. Human being is an integrated creation of God who has a distinct physical, spiritual, and thinking too highly of oneself. You know, we talk about ego. That everything is about me, I. Islamic spirituality especially highlights the nafs as a side that needs purification. So what needs purification is your nafs. Right? The human nature is designed to seek and understand God. Fitra, which was explained earlier on. And the nature of human being is instrumental in developing spiritual development and learning. Then, of course, Samir, I think you mentioned this in one of your deliveries in the Dars, the three stages of nafs. Okay? And so the three stages are, the first one, which is amara, that's person's self. And the Quran ayat on that is this, that and I call not myself sinless, surely man's self is wont to command evil. It's quite natural, in other words. It's quite natural to be thinking evil. It's quite natural to be heading towards committing sin. Right? It's quite natural for a person. And this is the first stage. So that you're born with that. So amara is one's self. It is the lowest stage in the spiritual development. Okay, this is the first stage. This is the lowest stage. It may be called his animal self. Low desires and animal passions rule the mind of man, and he is capable of doing any evil without feeling bad at all. It just, to him, he wants to be the William the Conqueror. He wants to do the whole thing himself, everything for him, and that nothing else matters. The next stage that you move to is lawama, which is the self-accusing spirit, and I'm using that word from the Quran ayat, right? When the slightest departure from the right path at once rouses the mental pains of consciousness. In other words, a person would probably still do wrong, but he's moved from amara because he starts thinking, oh, I've done something wrong. So he's moving now, levels, right? So from Amara, he's now moved to Lawama. And then finally, it is Mutmaina, which is basically the stage of perfection, right? That's the soul at rest. And this is what the Quran ayat says, when it is in perfect peace, having attained the goal of perfection. And at this stage, just to give an example, when you reach this third stage, just to give an example that, for example, if you're not at the first stage, but at the second stage, you think, I have to pray, but it's a burden for me, right? But don't forget, you're on the right track. At least what you're thinking is, I have to pray. So you have at least moved from the first one to the second one, right? But you still, if you're at this stage, it will look like a burden to you. But when you reach the final stages, then it becomes a pleasure for you. Then it becomes meaningful.
Sorry, I missed the piece where you're saying when you have a desire to pray, but you don't want to feel like praying. Can you?
No. Not wanting to pray. When it crosses your mind,
Yeah.
that it's time to pray. You hear the azan, it's time for prayer.
Yeah.
But you, of course, you get up and say, oh my God, I have to pray again.
What stage is that?
That's the second stage.
Oh, okay.
Okay? That's the second stage. You at least you should be proud. You congratulate yourself because you have graduated. You have moved from the first one. So that's a positive thing. Don't look at everything negative. That's a positive thing. At least you say, I need to read the Quran. Whether it's a burden to you or whatever, I have to pray. It's a burden. But at least you know you have moved, and Allah will help you.
So when you're at Hajj, is that number 3?
Number 3, well, supposed to be. And when I say supposed to be, because Hajj unfortunately has become a ritual without the spiritual significance of it. That's very unfortunate. I'm sorry to say, make this statement, and Allah forgive me if I'm making this statement which I shouldn't. But I know people who've even done Hajj, and anyway, I'm not going to go there. But that's the unfortunate thing. But the answer to your question is yes. At that stage, you should feel, I'm at rest. I've done what is Allah expected me to do, and I've completed it. And I've done it. Now, Hazrat Ali, Imam Ali, we all know, the fourth Caliph, he has explained it beautifully. He said, the nafs is like a wild horse, and you are riding upon it. If you move your attention for 1 second, he will throw you off. Beautifully explained. Beautifully explained. You take your concentration of what you're supposed to do, what you should be doing, what you should not be doing, you're out. So in other words, you got to always keep on reminding yourself. All right? And of course, this is the one that we find that I suppose that's the best example that I could think of. In fact, that was not in part of my lectures, but once I read it and then I introduced it, and I think the lecturer was happy with that example. Okay, so and then we move to the 3, and you can see how I'm trying to connect all this. Then there you have the 3 facets of the world. The world is a place of satisfying the unlimited physical desires of the self. That's the world. And Allah has thrown all that. It's all there for us. Right? And of course, it's a place of satisfying the unlimited physical desires. So life becomes a test. Allah has given you all that facilities. It's all there for you. But how are you going to approach it? And this face of the world, or facet of the world, is usually condemned in all religions as well as Islam. You look at any religion, Hinduism, even Christianity, and I give credit where it's due. All religions have this. Okay? And then the Holy Quran says, the life of the world is but an idle sport and play. And if you believe and keep your duty, He will give you your reward, and He does not ask of you your wealth. And this, the next one is quite interesting, and we all know we can apply this to ourselves. Wealth and children are the adornment of the life of this world. But the ever abiding, the good works are better for thy Lord in reward and better in hope. It's so true, isn't it? I mean, our preference just goes straight to our wealth and our children. That's it. And then the second facet of the world, the world is a fertile ground for human beings to seed good deeds, which produce their yield not only in this world but also in the hereafter, resulting in happiness in both worlds. In this respect, life is about competing towards excellence. And the Quran ayat, He who created death and life, that He might try you, of which you invest in deeds. And He is the mighty, the forgiving. The third facet of the world, the third one is the earth is an exhibition hall for the display of divine works of art. God's names and attributes are reflected in the universe and over God's creation so that we can get to know God and glorify, praise, and exalt Him. He is Allah, the Creator, the Maker, the Fashioner. His are the most beautiful names. Whatever is in the heavens and on earth declares His glory, and He is the mighty, the wise. And call not with Allah any other God. There is no God but He. Everything that exists will perish but He. He is the judgment, and to Him you will be brought back. You can see how He has fashioned the world, how He has created everything for us, and that's basically. Now, three facets of the world, continue with this. The key to this world is the dunya. Right? So, to see the world, which is dunya, with the second and the third phases. And you remember the second, the fertile ground, and the third, which is an exhibition hall, where you have everything, whether you appreciate that or you don't appreciate that. Looking at the world with the three facets enables Muslims to have a balanced perspective of worldly life and the earth. Does the last statement make sense? And of course, then we move on to the purpose of universe. And this is one question that has been asked of me, and I think Shanaz once you mentioned that. And it's so important to understand this. What is the purpose of universe? And of course, the purpose for the creation of the universe, those who remember Allah standing and sitting and lying on the sides and reflect on the creation of the heavens and the earth, like we were talking about. Our Lord, Thou hast not created this in vain. In other words, without meaning or purpose. And we did not create the heavens and the earth and what is between them in sport. We created them not, but with truth. But most of them know not. And continuing with that, the Quran ayat, and we created not the heaven and the earth and what is between them for sport. Had we wished to take just a pastime, we would have taken it before ourselves, the things, by no means what we do so. And thou seest the mountains, thou thinkest them firmly fixed, passing away as the passing away of the clouds. Such is the handiwork of Allah, who has made everything thoroughly in perfect order. Surely He is aware of what you do. God's infinite beauty and perfection want to be appreciated by everyone. God willed to create this universe like a majestic palace, and the earth like an exhibition hall within that palace, and decorated it from its creative artistry and treasures. God then invited conscious human beings as dwellers on earth and appointed a special envoy, which is a prophet, who would act like a tour guide in the exhibition hall. In other words, well, first of all, God's infinite beauty and perfection want to be appreciated. In other words, giving thanks, appreciation, that we gratitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that He's provided. Now, this special envoy that I mentioned, the Prophet, he has the following duties. As we know, the Prophet's duty is to pass the messages of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So his duties are describe the maker of the palace to the dwellers. I'm giving you this example for you people to understand about the architecture of the palace and its decorations. In other words, conveying to the people, telling them what the Holy Quran is, the beauty of the Holy Quran, what's in there. You describe how the palace and its contents demonstrate the creative artistry, beauty, and the perfection of its maker. We look at a good artist painting, we admire and we praise the artist. This is what it's all about. When you look at all of the artistry, the nature, and you find that the special envoy, which is the Prophet, he describes. His duty also includes describe how the palace and its contents demonstrate the creative artistry, beauty, and perfection of its maker, and then to explain how they could please the maker while they are dwelling within it. This is the Prophet's duty. Talking about the Prophet's duty. And then what do you have? The Prophet is there, he's trying to do this, but then you have two groups of people. The first group consisted of people who were attentive, sensible, and reasonable. Talking about pious people. Seeing the wonderful and perfect contents of the palace, they thought, this is not built without a purpose. They start thinking, Allah has made all this, there has to be a reason, there has to be a purpose. They start thinking. Whilst thinking this way, they heard the address of the Prophet, which is the Quran. When Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for example, in this case, when he's trying to explain to the people the verses, the ayats of the Holy Quran, that's what he's trying to do. They hear the address by the tour guide, the Holy Prophet, the envoy, and to understood what was being said and the purpose of the universe and the whole scheme of life. They went through the exhibition of life in awe and wonder. They followed the instructions and the warnings written and hung on the walls by the maker of the palace, which is the ayats of the Holy Quran. And of course, you see the beauty, tafakkur, which is you look at the ocean, you look at the buildings, you look at the mountains, you look at the stars, you look at the birds, and you realize the Creator. Beautiful. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there's a recognition of the Maker. They followed the guides and did not disturb other people. So they go with the envoy, he's trying to explain everything. They follow him, they listen to whatever he's telling them to do, where to speak, when not to speak, what to touch, what not to touch. They do all that. And in return, what the king does is, he's so pleased with them that he invited them to another bigger place and much beautiful palace, which in our case, the paradise, Jannat al-Firdaus, and granted them with his unforeseen bounties and blessings. They have a skip or the okay. So the second group comprised of people who were, they could not care about or could not see the reasoning behind other things. They were oblivious to what was happening around them. So when they entered the palace, they immediately noticed nothing other than delicious food and drinks at the food court. They did not follow the instructions and warnings laid by the king. In other words, they did not follow the envoy, which is the Prophet, which were hung up on the walls, which is the ayats of the Holy Quran. Neither did they listen to the address of the special envoy, nor did they heed the guides. They didn't listen to him. He's trying to talk to them. Instead of following him, they abuse him, like in our case, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. All right? They went straight to the food court. They only ate, slept, and drank beverages that were on display for another purpose and forbidden to them. Getting drunk, they caused disorder in the palace. They troubled and harmed other inhabitants. Consequently, they were thrown out of the exhibition and sent to a worse place. You could say to the police station, back to the cell, locked up in prison. And then the Holy Quran emphasizes that the universe and life are created for profound reasons. God has created the universe to display His beauty and perfection to Himself and to others, human beings, angels, and who have the capacity to appreciate Him. And again, there was another verse of the Holy Quran which I cited earlier on in slide 11, which is very similar, but it's a different slide, a different ayat. Did you then think that we have created you in vain, without a purpose, and that you will not be returned to us? Now, I was asking the people, you think I've created you for no reason, and that you will not be returned to us? A lot of people think like that. They're going to die, that's just the end of them. And this is the Quran ayat which asks you this rhetorical question. And then it says, "O man, save your Lord who created you and those before you, so that you may guard against evil." In other words, become pious. And I have not created the jinn and the men except that they should serve me. And serving is ibadah, right? Ibadah, we say. And what is the best form of ibadah? Prayers. And look at what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says about prayers. Say, O Muhammad, my Lord would not care for you were it not for your prayer. Who would have the audacity or the courage to say, I do not care whether God cares about, Allah cares about me or not? Who's going to have that kind of courage to say that? Nobody. Everybody will shake their head. No, nobody can do it. So then do we pray? When Allah tells you, had it not been for your prayers, I wouldn't care about you. And the soul and its perfection, so that it reveals it to its way of evil and its way of good. He is indeed successful who causes it to grow, that is, purifies it, and he indeed fails who buries it. So we come to the conclusion, and we'll see that this world is a place of satisfying the unlimited physical desires of the self. And we've seen, hopefully, I was able to get the message across, how control of our nerves can provide us with a spiritually satisfying life, how control of our nerves can determine our life both in this world and the hereafter. Allah has provided us with all the things that we can imagine and how we can either use or abuse them. In other words, the English saying, the ball is in your court. Thank you.